What's going on, everybody? Chase and Brandon with Ida Hockey.
Here at Ice in Paradise in Santa Barbara, California. We just got off the rink testing out the new CCM RibCor Trigger 7 Pro hockey stick.
Now this thing and this line has been very successful for CCM. And this year we might not see the biggest physical change, but underneath the hood, we see a big change with their new SigmaTex STP that we have found in the new top of line sticks from the Jet Suite as well as the Tax line this year. So it's gonna be lighter and stronger. So when that happens, you get to use less material with the same strength properties of what we've seen in the past. So what does that mean? 385 grams in a Senior 85 Flex, just insanely lightweight. And now we've been running through the top line sticks of 2022. So when you pick this up for your first time today, what were your initial thoughts?
Well, you mentioned 385 grams at an 85 Flex, but this does not feel like 385 grams. It literally feels like 360 grams. It's super feather light, feels really, really good in the hands. With the shaft dimensions as well, I'm more of a traditional type of player. I like straight sidewalls, square corners, but with these shaft dimensions on the RibCor, it only took me about 5 minutes to get used to it. It feels really good. Straight on the back, concave on the fingertips there. Feels really good. I'm pretty impressed.
And these are the most unique shaft dimensions that we see out of any CCM stick. Yeah. Even though that new Tax 5 Pro is gonna give it a run for the money, it's what they call their Ergo Shaft Dimensions. So that top upper third here, concave on both sides, rounded corners, my personal favorite. As we get into the middle third with that fancy new purple, which is taking place of that bright green, this is concave on the forehand and straight on the backhand. That's what Brandon was describing, a little bit of a hybrid shaft dimension there. As we get into the bottom here, this is where we see it get really unique. Look how deep and concave the forehand is here. So as you're taking your shot, it allows you to load it up lightning quick so you can get that puck off in a hurry. This entire RibCor line is all about that lightning quick release. Ideal for those crafty players looking to get the puck off as quickly as possible. That's the reason why. As we go over to the backhand here, this is where we see the opposite of concave, which is called convex. So it actually bubbles out a little bit, and this really keeps the shot stable throughout the entire process. So as you're sitting back, you're really loading that shot, wanna really crank it by the goalie, tends to wanna put a lot of pressure in the lower third here, and that can twist the blade a little bit. That's where you lose accuracy, at least that's what I blame it on. But with this, it's taking out all of the excuses here because it's keeping it nice and stable. So let's talk about just the overall feeling of the puck flying off of the blade today, and maybe speak a little bit about your personal preference as you factor that in.
My personal preference is, as you know, a mid-kick, high-powered shot. But with this RibCor, as I'm trying to load like I would a normal hybrid or mid-kick stick, this really just wants to release off the blade. I mean, you don't need to load a lot of power into it. You can load it, but it fires off with quickness and accuracy. So this bottom portion here, like Chase mentioned with the concave and convex dimensions, it's not all looks. It really does the job of giving you that super fast release, but with accuracy as well.
And this is why RibCor has been my favorite for a long time, even when it was still the Reebok RibCor, and I think it was called the Reckoner. That was many moons ago, so it's been really fun to see this RibCor line evolve. And now with that SigmaTex STP, the best, most efficient material they've ever used in their sticks so far, working with the Ergo Shaft Dimensions, this thing is ripping. So unlike Brandon, I am more of that low kick RibCor style shooter. And so I noticed just how much more effective it was, just barely loading anything into it, and it's still flying off of the blade. With how effective it is, it feels like its entire sweet spot. Like no matter where you're shooting from, it's always just gonna be able to rip off just because of how effective that low kick point is. We also have the Skeleton Plus technology that bridges basically the shaft into the blade, making for a very efficient construction process. So as you're loading up the stick, you're getting maximum energy transfer, especially with their agility to blade here. So before I get into the nuts and bolts here, walk me through what you experienced with the puck feel and how it suited your style and preference.
So I've used very minimal RibCor sticks in the past. This is my first opportunity to really get my hands and shoot with the RibCor, and the Trigger 7 Pro blade feel is very unique. CCM has their hybrid kick point. This blade is almost like a hybrid blade core. It's very cool. You have a dampened portion on the heel here, and it's more stiff and lively on the toe. So when I was catching passes, I felt really nice and dampened here, felt very under control. And then when I wanted to rip a shot, nice and lively off the toe here. But Chase, could you walk us through what's going underneath the hood and give us those nuts and bolts?
So, like you mentioned, it is softer in the heel here, but it gets progressively stiffer as you get into the toe. So like you mentioned, catching those passes, they're sticking to your blade like glue. But as it gets stiffer, especially for those toe shooters who are typically gravitating towards that low kick point stick, they're just firing it from here. It's giving them the stability that they need to really generate that shot power. But even for the traditional shooter like you and me, who's typically firing, if we can, from the heel here, it's gonna keep the blade nice and square to the target, so it's not gonna open up on big shots, especially if you are gonna crank out a big wrist shot or a 1T from the point. Like you mentioned though, it is hybrid. So, well, personally, I like a super stiff, lively feel. Even sometimes they might bounce off of my blade face a couple times. That way I get to blame it on something. But, you know, just having that softness in the heel, like you mentioned too, is just fantastic. And it's something you definitely notice, especially if you're coming from maybe the competition, which is very stiff and lively. It's a very welcome change there. But overall, as someone who has been a long time RibCor fan, it's a big change graphically this year. Performance is still gonna be top notch and a little bit elevated from what we've seen in years past with that new Sigma-Tex STP carbon fiber.
Well, Chase, I'm pretty impressed overall with using the RibCor Trigger 7 Pro today. I'm sure so many RibCor fans are gonna fall in love with this new one. But if you all wanna get your hands on the new Trigger 7 Pro or check out any of other CCM sticks, you can hit the link in our description below. While you're here, give us a thumbs up on the video and subscribe to the #1 hockey gear review channel on YouTube.
See you next time.